In this lesson, I'm going to show you how to improve your dexterity, picking, and rhythm, all with one really simple exercise. To set everything up, we're going to use the chromatic scale as our foundation, and then we'll use it to focus in on a couple different elements. Like I said, dexterity, picking, and our timing and feel really wrapped into one. And the version I'm going to show you right now, I once saw John Schofield share in a video. The pattern is really fun to play and it's really simple. So let's look at that first before really anything else, just how the pattern goes, and then we'll take it from there. To set this up, we're going to go to the low E string, 8th fret, and go like this. Then we go down a string and back to the left 1 fret and do the same thing. Down a string, back to the left, same thing. Down a string, back to the left, same thing. I'm going to pause right there. I want to make a quick point here that's really valuable to keep in mind just in general with your playing, not just with this exercise, but anything that you would normally do with a 2-string grouping, you have to do +1 on the B string just because it's tuned a little differently. It's tuned a semitone lower than the other strings. So we have this pattern that was going diagonally to the left, but now instead of that, if you think about it, if we just did 5, 6, 7, 8 for the frets right here, instead of going back a fret, we go +1 and we end up on the same fret. So G string and B string in this version of the scale will have the same pattern on the same frets. So B string picking up where we left off, 5th fret. Now we're back to that shifting back pattern. So down a string, back to the left a fret. We're going to go like this. Now at the end, we're going to move the pinky up 1 fret, and that gets us back to C. We started at C and we ended at C. The chromatic scale is it's a scale where you hit every single note without skipping anything. So every single semitone, what we just did is 2 octaves of the C chromatic scale. And now we're going to go backwards. So picking up where we left off, I'm going to do the E string pattern one more time so you can see how the transition goes. It goes like this, 4th fret, then slide up, then we're going to go backwards. Instead of shifting back to the left and up a string, we're going to go up a string, up to the right. Remember that the B string and G string are going to be the same frets as each other, same pattern. Now we go up a string, up to the right, 1 fret. Up a string, up to the right. Up a string, up to the right. And then shift down, and that resets everything. Then we're back where we started. That alone is a really great thing to implement into your daily practice routine. I really encourage you to do that. Then once you really get it down, add these other elements that I'm going to bring into the mix in a moment. Before moving on to anything else, let's do the chromatic scale. Just like I showed you, we'll ascend and descend just one time at 50 beats per minute. I'm going to count 16th notes, and this way we can just get the pattern down and then add in some of these other elements to focus in on. I'm also going to put a link in the description for the worksheet where I'll just tab everything out. And also I'll put a guided audio track so you can practice along to this, and both are going to be free. So check that out if you want to, and I hope it helps. So here we go. We're going to play the scale at 50 beats per minute, counting 16th notes. 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a. Next up, we're going to add a couple more things to really focus in on with this exercise and make a little tweak as we go. I mentioned in the intro that this can really improve your picking technique, and what I'm going to do is just alternate pick, and I'm going to encourage you to do that as well. And just think of it like this. Anytime we change strings in this pattern with this scale, we're going to do it with a downstroke. And just really focus in on if you feel tension building up in your forearm toward your elbow, or sometimes it even happens for me if I speed things up, my shoulder can tense up and I kind of hunch up like this, and it's kind of the enemy of playing a nice, smooth, fast passage of music. So as we just work on that picking, keep it steady, watch out for tension building, and try to avoid that. Try to keep yourself relaxed, keep a nice steady breath going, And the other thing that I mentioned that you can really improve with this exercise, is I show the final version of it in a moment, is your timing, your rhythm, your feel. What I'm going to have you do here to really become more aware of the feel that you're playing with is play around with some accents. Now, accents are an incredible way to change the way that your phrasing comes across to the listener, how it feels to you. It's just an absolutely amazing thing to add to your musicianship if you haven't really thought about that yet. So what we'll do is have two kinds of feels we'll play with. One of them is going to be just a straight 16th kind of rhythm, and I'm going to have you put an accent on a very particular beat. I'll show you in a second. The second feel we'll play around with is more of a triplet feel, but we're not actually going to change anything in terms of the notes we play or even the picking or anything like that, but just rather where the accent goes. And you'll see pretty quickly, I think, how powerful the accent is. I've set the metronome to counting eighth notes now, so we have a little more time to kind of focus in on some of these finer details. And just check out how every other string change, I'm going to put an accent, meaning just I'm going to give it a little extra volume on the index finger when we ascend, and then the pinky finger as we descend on the way back. I think you'll see what I'm talking about, but what I'm trying to do here is give it the feel like it's a snare drum. This just gives your playing a little more vibe and a little more bounce, and it makes it just more musical. So here's how it goes. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and... The real feel that we get from that accent will become more apparent as we speed it up a little bit. But for now, just practice that, becoming aware of where you put that little extra gusto on that first note every other string. Now let's get more of that triplet feel that I was talking about. And it's a really simple change. It's not necessarily easy, but it's simple. We're not going to change the notes that we play, the fingers that we use, anything like that. We're not even going to change the picking. We're not going to change the metronome. All we're going to change is where we put the accents. So here's how the pattern goes. We're going to start out with the index, same kind of way we did before, but we're going to put an accent on the first string we play with the pinky finger. The next string down, no accent. Let's play all the notes as evenly as we can. As we get to the next string down, we're going to put an accent on the middle finger. This is for the ascending pattern. Let me show you what that looks like, and I'm going to really embellish these accents. I might not play them quite this abrasively in a real context, but just so you can really hear it. It goes like this. Now this brings us to the descending pattern. What we're going to do is slide up, and now our accent for descending is going to be on the index finger. We move up a string with the same pattern as before, shifting up a fret. No accent on this string. Then as we go to the next string, we'll have an accent with the ring finger. And I also want to point out one other thing here as we go. All the accents when we did the straight feel were on downstrokes. Now all the accents are on upstrokes. So this creates a real versatility where we're not just bogged down to one approach or the other. Ideally, we are equally comfortable putting an accent on a down or an up, and this is a great way to get used to it and practice it. So let's practice descending. So we're going to pick up where we left off. 8th fret of the high E string with the pinky finger. We'll start with the downstroke, put an accent on the index finger. Now that we have the pattern down and where to put those accents to get more of the triplet feel, let's do it again, but with the metronome. 50 beats per minute. I've got it set to 8th note, so it feels a little slower so we can get the hang of it. Then we're going to speed it up a little bit. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 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 1 and 2 Some people may prefer to just stay with the exercises just as I presented them, not changing the tempo, but just keeping it slow and steady. And that's a really good way to go, especially if you need a little time to just memorize how the pattern goes and memorize where to put those accents and really home in on the picking and all that stuff. But if you want to spice it up a little bit, I'm going to give you one more version of this exercise. This is the one that I do every single day, and it's an awesome practice. What I'm going to do is show you how I set up the metronome. I'm using an app called Tempo. It's really an awesome tool, and I have it for the iPad, and here's how it goes. I'll show you right now. All right, here's the app. And so we can control the volume right here, and we can put accents and stuff on all the beats, but we're not going to even touch any of these blue circles up here. We'll just keep them how they are. Over here, you'll see a section that says Automator. If you click that, you can select how you want it to speed up, which is really cool. So I'm going to hit change by bars. Bars are measures. It's the same thing. I'm going to set this to change every 3 measures. The reason I'm going to set it that way is because that's how long it takes to go from the bottom of the scale to the top. And then same thing, once we get to the top, that's how long it takes to get back to the bottom. So we've got it set to 3 bars, speeding up by 3 beats per minute. You can change how many beats per minute it speeds up. I like to have it speed up by 3 beats per minute because it's enough to make a change, but not enough where it feels like a huge jump. So it feels like more of a gradual speed up. So I really like it, but you can adjust that, as you want. Okay, now that we've got that set up, I'm just gonna click over here. Then I'm gonna click the subdivision. So when you look at these apps, this right over here is your time signature. We're gonna keep it on 4/4. That means 4 quarter notes per measure. But over here, this button is for the subdivision, and we're gonna set that to 16th notes, which will look like that. It's when you have these notes with 2 flags. 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a ready and. I challenge you to try that every day for like the next 3 weeks. And it'll only take you a couple minutes to do that, but I guarantee you, if you did that like for a month straight, you would see a massive change. You may even want to videotape yourself doing it and see your own progress, but you'll see your dexterity improve, being really aware of how high your fingers are lifting. That's something I should have mentioned earlier. Try to keep them under control. And I'm not saying lifting your fingers is necessarily a bad thing. It's more about what your intention is. So if your finger, like a lot of times for people, the pinky finger will lift really high just as a reflex. Those are the kinds of things you just want to watch out for and train the finger to do just what you want it to do. So try to do that for a month straight and you'll see some big improvement, and hopefully you can carry it forward, because usually it takes just about that long to really get a good habit going. And I hope that helps. If you enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe, share the video. I really do appreciate it, and I'll see you soon.